All right, mastery quiz number 6 is all about finding slope. Now, finding slope can be a little complicated, I'll be honest, mostly because there are lots of different ways that we learned that you can find slope. Remember that slope equals rise over run, and it equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and it equals the difference of y over the difference in x. Lots of different ways to find slope. On this video, I'd like to boil everything down to the difference in y over the difference in x and use a table. If you are interested in seeing one of these other methods, then please look at the other video for mastery quiz number 6. The first problem is already a table, so it's easy to use a table to find the slope. Your first step is just to pick any two rows. Just to be easy, I guess I'll just pick the top two. And I am looking for the change in y over the change in x. So, first of all, my y column is this one on the right. So, what changes when I go from 5 to 11? Well, I know I'm getting bigger, so I know that I'm adding something. And I need to add 6 to 5 to get to 11. So I know that the change in y is plus 6. Similarly, on the x column, I want to figure out what am I changing to go from -3 up to 0. Well, 0 is actually bigger than -3, so I know I'm adding. And I need to add 3 to get from -3 to 0, so I'm adding 3. Now all I need to do is take this change in y and divide it by my change in x. So I get positive 6 divided by positive 3. So my slope is equal to 6 over 3, which is equal to 2. So 2 is the slope on the first problem. The second problem is a graph. I need to find the slope of this line. The first thing I do is I find nice points. Remember, nice points are where the line crosses this grid at a spot where the lines cross. So if the line crossed at any of these spots, it would be a nice point. So one nice point I see is right here where the line crosses that grid corner. So that is a nice point. This graph actually has 3 nice points. There's another one, and the third one is here. We only need 2 of those nice points in order to solve this for the slope. This first point that I drew, the x is 4, the y is 3. This second point, the x is 2, the y is 0. And then I just put those numbers into an xy table. X, y, the first one was 4 and 3, the second one was 2 and 0. And now I just find my change in y and my change in x. So my change in y, how do I change from a 3 into a 0? Well, this time I'm getting smaller, so I'm actually subtracting. And to change 3 to 0, I subtract 3. That's my change in y, because those are my y numbers. Over here, to go from 4 to 2, I'm also getting smaller, and I'm getting smaller by 2. That's my change in x. Remember that the slope is change in y over change in x. So my slope is -3 divided by -2. I can simplify that because I know a negative divided by a negative is always a positive, so my slope is positive 3 over 2. Aha! This question asks you to find the slope of the line that passes through -2, -5, and 4, -3. Essentially, what they're asking you to do is they're asking you to imagine a line. And this line goes through the point -2, 2, 3, -5. But it also goes through the point +4, -3. So we are imagining this line here, and we're asked to find the slope of it. Well, all we need to do if we're using a table is make a table with those 2 points. -2, -5, and 4, -3. And now remember, we're looking for the change in y, so we can divide it by the change in x. So, -5 to -3. Those negatives are a little tricky because they work backwards. -5 is actually smaller than -3. So we're getting bigger to go from -5 to -3. And we're getting bigger by 2. We need to go to the right 2 places on a number line if we're starting at -5 and ending at -3. It's a little easier with the x. Going from -2 to 4, we're obviously getting bigger. But we're getting bigger by 6. We need to go to the right 6 places on the number line to get from -2 to +4. So this is my change in y, this is my change in x, and I divide those to get my slope. So my slope is +2 divided by +6. Now those can be that fraction can be reduced because I can divide the top and the bottom by 2. So I would get 2 divided by 2 is 1 over 6 divided by 2 is 3. The slope here is 1/3. This last problem, we don't need a table. Remember that this is in slope-intercept form because it has y equals. And in slope-intercept form, the slope is always the number in front of the x. Here's my x. In front of it is a +4. So without doing any math, I know that the slope of this is 4. And that is how you find slope using a table.